When I play old Sonic games, it would still say at the beginning, Sega, solid mind here, and today, should you buy the Sega Genesis Mini 2? The Sega Genesis came out in 1980s, and they made a slightly newer version that can be used in today's, era. I could review the old one, but could you actually play it on today's hardware? Unless you get conversion kits, I'm not too sure. But today it's can you and should you buy the Sega Genesis Mini 2? Let's watch and find out.
So here is the system, and you might think this guy has Andre the Giant size hands. Look at how small it looks in his hands. No, it's actually very tiny. Here's a 16-ounce can of soda, and you can see the can of soda is obviously bigger. When the DHL guy handed it off to me, I was like, what the hell is this? And then I opened it up, and I was like,
Yeah, it looks very small, the packaging. The packaging doesn't look too big, but it's not really about the size. It's about the quality, right? Right? Yeah.
wow, this is mad tiny. But I do like the packaging, of course. You know, it's the Sega Genesis Model 2 packaging that we all grew up with, at least I grew up with. I had the Sega Genesis Model 2 with Sonic the Hedgehog 2 pack-in.
Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog was the main game on the Sega Genesis. Even uh, when I play old Sonic games, it would still say at the beginning, Sega. And that's still in my head. I'm guessing Sega made Sonic. I don't know if the latest Sonic games still have the Sega stuff at the beginning, but yeah, that was one of the biggest games. And you can see here, what's that one Sonic game? Two Sonic games. So Sonic is quite a big part of this, and it's not too bad actually. Not too bad. Let's continue.
We have the titles on the back of this. Over 60 games on the system, including some unreleased games. So, you know, that's pretty cool. Opening up things here, we have our power cable. There is no power brick that comes with it, but it's just a standard power brick that you plug it into.
Okay.
Here is our HDMI cable, which I have like a million of these now. It's kind of
This is why I'm reviewing the Sega Genesis Mini 2. We've reached a time in our era where now emulation is just as good as the original. Sorry, I said it. But what that means is that you can upgrade the game's console and then downgrade the quality and the experience to make it more authentic and put, for example, these controllers and these kits, they're not really the same as the original, but they're made this way so that we can play the same like type of games on slightly newer hardware like HDMI. Because the original Sega Genesis did not have HDMI. HDMI did not exist. So this is a better way of getting into this console, and the reliability element of it is also a game changer. It's not as authentic. Luckily, Sega Genesis updated it, so there is that element where if a new gamer wants to play on new hardware, the barrier to entry is slightly removed, because if you get the older one, you have to start going on Amazon looking for connectors and cabling, and yeah, this is a better, easier entry to play retro games on newer hardware. Let's continue.
kind of like, you know, the RCA cables used to be back in the day. I feel
Yeah.
like we all have a box of HDMI cables nowadays. But hey, you can never have too many of them.
True.
And here is the controller. It is a Sega Genesis 6-button controller, which I'm very happy about. You know, the original Sega Genesis Mini that came out stateside only had a 3-button controller. It is a branded Sega controller. I'm not sure if Retrobit made it. I know they've made a lot of others.
Yeah, these controllers are not the originals, but if you put somebody blindfolded, could they tell the difference? That's the question I have in my head, and I don't think they would. That's my thoughts.
Sega Genesis stuff recently, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did. And then here is the system itself, and it's a tiny little guy, man. But hey, maybe, you know, big things come in small packages or something. If you're dating a retro
Let's continue. Let's continue.
chick and you're sending her a naughty picture, you could put it next to this and be like, look at how, never mind, we won't go down that rabbit hole.
Thank
you. Yeah, you know, it's accurate to how the Sega Genesis Model 2 looks. This is the bottom of the system. It has the slot to insert your Sega CD, just like the original system did. And
so this can play original Sega Genesis games, which makes it so much easier. I was thinking that it would already be built in like an emulation device, so at least that makes it a bit more authentic for the original element. Or if you have an original Sega Genesis and it's not playing properly, this can be an easy way to still, you know, get that, you know, to work. So not bad.
there's even a cartridge port, which doesn't do anything. It's super lightweight, honestly. You have your 2 controller slots there. There's a good look at the cartridge slot of it. So yeah, pretty cool. You can stick your finger in the cartridge slot should you want to. But let's take a look at the actual system itself. So here's the menu for the Sega Genesis model.
Oh my goodness, this looks actually pretty good. This does not look like 320 for 460p. It looks a lot higher quality, or like 1080 type of P. It looks good actually. Pretty straightforward. So it's like an old school menu. When you open it up, the games are in front of you already. So there's no need for all fancy Wi-Fi, Bluetooth settings and color calibration, and it's just open it, play it, plug and play, basically.
Model 2, and as you can see here, these are some of the games available on the system. An interesting variety of stuff here. I feel like there's a lot of games that are on this system that people have never played or never been able to purchase because maybe they didn't have a Sega CD. Really, growing up, a Sega CD was kind of a niche thing. I only knew one.
So it does look like there's a lot of emulated games put onto this. So you just buy it and play it. I wonder, are they licensed to do this? I don't know. Is this from Sega itself? But so far, it looks interesting. If you are the kind of person who had 1 or 2 games, this would be a game changer to then go back and play like every game, basically. So it makes sense. I'm sure trying to get Sega Genesis games must be expensive because retro games are not cheap. They are not. So this could be a cheap way of, you know, getting the games you need that are emulated. Okay, got it.
Person personally that had one, so most of these games I never really got to play them, or at least watch somebody play them, but I was always interested in the system. Now I of course have a Sega CDX, which is the best of all worlds when it comes to the Genesis. Let's take a look at some of the settings you can do here. We have different screen settings. You could have the
I see. So yeah, these settings take advantage of more modern aspect ratios. There's no more 4:3. There is 16:9. There's other aspect ratios. So this makes sense in terms of, okay, if somebody gonna play this on a monitor, play this on a widescreen TV, play this on a normal TV. So this, and also depending on the game, you might want that more retro feel, so you want it more 4:3, or maybe you want to just make your screen full, so you're gonna go by 16:9. So there's quite a few ways you can play this. So this is I'm impressed so far. I'm impressed.
cropped image or a full screen image. Of course, we're going with cropped. We want it to look as proper as possible with an aspect ratio. A bunch of different wallpaper settings that you can have. I like the standard Sega World default one. I think it looks kind of
I don't think this was on the original Sega Genesis, but so far so good.
funky and like a 16-bit thing. This is
Alright, let's play some games. Let's see how the gameplay looks like a little bit.
terrible loading times on that system, and they've definitely decreased them substantially with this system. Of course, like I said, you can play the Japanese version of the game should you prefer the Japanese soundtrack, and the Japanese soundtrack is indeed there. But for me, I'm just a stupid American. I'm gonna play my stupid American version of Sonic CD and absolutely love it. Now, this game is available on the Sonic Origins collection, but if you played the Sonic Origins collection, it's not the greatest thing in the world.
So lag could have been a big factor on the Sega Genesis, being an older console. So having the games emulated and the Sega Genesis 2 made on newer hardware, it means that instead of waiting for the disc to spin and then you read what's on the spinning disc, this must be like instant. So I'm guessing lag is either put in or it's just designed to run faster. But it looks interesting actually. Pretty interesting games. These you can play anywhere, emulated, but not
So
bad.
I think it's much better on the Sega Genesis Mini too. But definitely happy to see Sega CD.
I see. Yeah, the quality isn't that bad actually. Not that bad. There we go. Come on, Street Fighter OG. This looks fine actually. This looks fun. But let's do this. Let's finish this video. Should you buy the Sega Genesis Mini 2? Let me check how much it cost actually. So Sega Genesis Perfection. It depends on the price. £200. Oh, well done. So the original Sega Genesis is cheaper actually. It's around like 50 to £100, whereas the Mini 2, brand new, it's around 200. You can get slightly cheaper ones for like £100. So it's not that bad actually. Let me go on Amazon just to see what Amazon will say. I know you guys can't see my screen yet because I'm logged into my Amazon account, but yeah, it's not looking too bad actually. I would say if you want more of a retro game, get it. It's a better hardware, better specs. The lag is removed. You get access to way more games. It's not as authentic as the real Sega Genesis, but it's plug and play. Like, can you really beat that? I don't think so. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, peace.